You see me?
Yeah, you're sideways though.
Oh, okay. So I need to bring it back to the front. How's that? Is that better?
Much better. Yeah, you're 10-10, dude. That's perfect.
All right, cool.
And I need to drop my chair down a little bit. There we go.
Fuck it. We'll do it live. Fuck it.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Jeremy, and movies are terrible. And boy, oh boy, are we excited to be bringing this video to you. It is the end of Avengers Endgame opening weekend. Joining me to jump into this deep dive discussion is good friend, frequent collaborator, and the man behind the controversy, Ian Elliott-Carter.
Thank you for having me on, brother. I've been so excited to talk about this movie. It's like literally someone's been holding my tongue, and I can't wait to talk about it. Thank you for letting me speak.
Oh, yeah. Can't imagine too many people I'd rather be doing it with. I think you're probably like sixth or seventh on the list of people that I would just be like, man, it would be really cool to talk to about this.
Hey, if I'm not top 10, we ain't friends.
I'm kidding, though. No, seriously, this is something you and I have been wanting to get up and do for a while. And actually, we did a superhero ranking list over on your channel not too long ago. I haven't went and looked at the comments on it yet. I'm kind of curious to what folks thought about it, but I don't know. I'm kind of curious. Before we even jump into this, would Avengers Endgame have taken a place on that top 10 list?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
hell yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm debating if it takes the number one spot. I'm still juggling right now between Endgame and Infinity War. I'm leaning towards Endgame, but I don't want to be so biased. I'm just so high off of it right now. I
Sure.
want to, marinate a little bit before I make a huge decision. Because I've done that before. I said The Last Jedi was one of the best Star Wars movies of all time, and then after I let it marinate a little bit, I'm gonna take back a little bit what I said. So I don't want to make that decision again.
It happens. It happens. My first initial response about this movie was 5 out of 5, perfect movie.
Me too.
So I might back down off that just a little bit, but we'll go ahead and jump into it. Obviously, before we do get started, guys, you're looking at the video right now. It clearly indicates that we are going to be talking spoilers. So if you haven't seen this movie, don't click on videos that say spoilers, because we're going to be talking about it as if you already have. If you're one of those people that don't really care about spoilers, welcome to the conversation to you two, and hopefully you guys do get out and check this movie. So I went on Thursday at 7 p.m. I got a digital showing, which we still had assigned seats for, which was great because the theater was completely packed. Every single showing was sold out, and I was just super happy. If I wouldn't have went to that digital showing on Thursday, I'd have had to wait till Monday to go and see the IMAX version. So I did go ahead and get that ticket for Monday, and I'll be going and checking it out again in IMAX, which I'm really actually happy about because there's so many things in this movie. It's so much to take in at one time, and so that said, there might be little things that I missed, there might be little things that you missed, and hopefully you guys in the chat can help us make some sense of things that maybe didn't quite register on that first viewing. Ian, did you see it once or twice?
Um, so like you, I didn't get to see it Thursday night, which it's a rare thing for me. I usually do see my movies Thursday night when it comes to the premiere, but because I couldn't get off work, I got to see it at 10 a.m. Friday morning. So I seen it twice, once in the movie, on my computer, and it made me watch it. I don't know how I got it there, but so yes, I've seen it twice. And after seeing it the second time, I did see a lot of detail I missed the first time. Like that, for example, there was one when they went back to the 70s. I didn't notice the sign said birthplace of Captain America the first time. I was like, oh, okay, that's a nice little detail. It's something small, but something at the second viewing when you are looking for those Easter eggs.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that part. I didn't pick up on that part, and apparently there are some pretty cool little Easter eggs sprinkled throughout it. So I swore when I was doing this review, I was not going to use the terminology that this is the culmination of 10 years of superhero movies leading up to this point. Culmination's like the perfect word, but God, I hope there's a syllable for it because every single review that I've watched, people use the word culmination. Have you noticed that?
I noticed that. I actually just said the greatest hits. I dumbed it down a little bit, but
Look at you, yeah.
but
I
yeah,
like that.
it was the greatest hits though. Like it gave you like maybe five or six of the movies where it came back. Like, oh, I remember this part. Oh, that's about to happen. Like even Thor: The Dark World, like a movie that a lot of people put low on the list, like me and you as well. It gave you a little bit of appreciation for the movie. Like it gave you some nostalgia. Like, oh, I remember that section of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, here's a couple: climax, pinnacle, peak, high point, highest point, height, high watermark, top, summit, crest, zenith, crowning moment, apotheosis, whatever. So there's other words out there, but yes, this really is the bringing together of all of these characters and all of these storylines for movies that we've been watching since obviously 2008's Iron Man. Again,
How old were
guys,
you in 2008, by the way? How old were you? Like
two,
36?
2008. Let's see. If I was 98, I would have been 16. 08, I would have been 26. Yeah, so I was already well into my adult years, and that's one of the things about the MCU, and something that really I think helped it resonate with me to the point that it did is like this has been a part of my life. This is something that my wife and I went and saw every one of these movies on opening weekend, and there's a built-in sentimentality when you spent this long with these characters, and I think that really helped the emotional impact of this movie. So kind of, how old were you when it all started out?
I was 19, a little younger than you, but I was like that was my senior year, like just fresh out of high school. Like that summer, it was that, and you nailed that on the head, like 100%. That these movies are a part of my life. Like if I had a list of like best friends, family, and things that are just memorable, like when my life is over with, the MCU is definitely going to be in my time capsule, 100%. Like it was a part of my life. Just seeing a B-list comic book character become an A-list overnight, just like it brought tears to my eyes just witnessing this. And it was the same year as like the Dark Knight movie. It was just something witnessing. You knew it was something special at the moment. You didn't know how big the universe was going to be after that, but like you just knew like, wow, this isn't the end of this, and I can't wait to see where it's going. And right now we're at the end of it, and it's just like, wow, we watched this child become an adult, and we're all proud parents.
Well, and you literally are a parent, and your little one wasn't born when the first Iron Man movie. So is there that extra layer of sentimentality of like your son has grown up with these properties, like your life as a father, your life as an adult? These two things have kind of had a correlation with each other. So I mean, there's just this like sentimentality built in with it, you know?
Of course, yeah, and I envy him because we didn't get these great movies back then. I mean, we got great movies, but we didn't get the great special effects and the great like comic book accurate type stuff when we were children. Your generation got Howard the Duck. Of course, we got
Classic.
we got shitty not Fast and Furious, but Fantastic Four movies. So like he doesn't get to see that. He got our mess ups, and then he gets to see the perfection of the mistakes our previous generation got to see.
So obviously, a lot of you guys that are watching this, you already know the deal. You know what's going on here. In Infinity War, Thanos, the Mad Titan, was able to acquire all of the Infinity Stones that have been kind of the MacGuffins throughout the entire series. At the end of Infinity War, he snaps half of the world's population. Every single creature, organism is completely been demolished. So Endgame opens up, and they're like, we got to go make this right. We're going to go handle this. And we'll try to walk by it step by step. But again, it's a lot of movie. But it starts off, Captain Marvel shows up. She saves Tony. And they're like, look, we've got a chance to go get this back from Thanos. Let's go make this happen. And when they show up to Titan and they find Thanos, he's kind of not where I expected him to be as far as his character. It's pretty surprising to see him look so vulnerable and just almost like this farmer out in the middle of the woods, just kind of watching the rest of the days go by. It almost reminds me of Clint Eastwood in The Unforgiven, but we didn't know anything about Thanos going into this movie. So what was your feelings towards seeing the way that they took this character?
So I actually, every day I watch John Campea very religiously, and they actually had a theory like this movie might not have a lot of Thanos. It might just be like first 10 minutes, they either kill him or he'd be like, hey, you could take the gauntlet if you want. It just doesn't work anymore. So I saw that theory a little bit coming. I didn't think it would be that, like, first 15 minutes of the movie. I thought that was interesting. I did like a lot of the humanized character development in him, like the moment where he looked at Nebula like, oh, thank you, daughter. I apologize for some of the things I've done to you in the past. And I thought, it showed a lot with him being like the regret he had for what he did to Gamora and the devastation of what he actually created. It humanized him just a little bit. I didn't feel damn sorry for him what happened to him, but and it was really surprising that I didn't think in a Disney movie we would see a character's head get cut off. That was monumental a little bit.
Yo, that's what I was about to say. Like, man, it was grim. Like, Thor, he's completely fucking come apart at this point because he feels responsible for everything that happened in the previous movie for not just going for the head. So he is like completely drunk, falling back into his hedonistic kind of overindulgent ways. He's kicking it playing video games with Korg and Meek from Thor Ragnarok, and it was really funny. But yes, you can really feel the pathos in that character. And once they realized that there's not any chance of being able to reuse the gauntlet because it's completely fucked, Thor just has this moment of pure unadulterated rage, and he fucking lobs Thanos' head off with his axe.
Well, can you blame him though? Like, look at from his point of view. Like, first Thanos killed half of the survivors of what happened to his home planet with Hela. He killed half of them, and then after that, after the snap, half of the half is gone. So
yeah,
he's really feeling that shit. Like, out of all the characters, I could see why he went to where he went. It was a funny gag, and sometimes that might be one of my cons about how they did a little too much of that. But I can understand why he felt that way, and it kind of got a little stale after a while. But I understood, like, seeing people in real life that go through stress. I've seen them gain weight. I've seen them become alcoholics. I get it. 100%. And it is sad when you think about, like, where it came from. Like, he witnessed his mother die, his father died, his brother's dead, his best friend Heimdall's dead. Like, gosh, how much more can this guy take?
Yeah, man. And we'll circle back around to kind of character by character thing, because you do bring up a good point and something that I think that we're probably on the same page about in some ways. I thought it was such a grim moment. I thought it was kind of a sad moment to see a hero do something that was clearly not very heroic. There's Thanos without a freaking arm, just kind of dying out there. He's no longer a threat to anybody. He's just smug. He's like, I did what I had to do, and here we are. And when Thor cut off his fucking head, and they're like, what did you do? He says, I aimed for his head. The audience that I was with, it was like a big hell yeah laugh moment to them, and there was something in my stomach. Like, I had something sink at the pit of my stomach. Like, damn, that was not a hero moment. I don't think people were supposed to laugh at that.
Yeah, I agree. They didn't laugh at my theater. That's different. Yeah, so people in Pensacola are just crazy.
Fucking wild.
No, they didn't laugh because I think, as much as we felt like maybe it was well deserved, but it wasn't a very heroic thing. That's not what heroes do. We find other ways of handling it, but we can understand like maybe it was deserved to an extent, but like we were also possibly looking at the broader picture. Like, you could do whatever you want to this guy. You could chop his head off, you throw him off of a cliff, burn him to death, but you're still dealing with a bigger situation that's bigger than this villain right there in front of us. Like our loved ones are still gone.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so that in my opinion, if I was there, like, okay, F this guy. We have bigger fish to fry. And we can sit all day, with our emotions just chopping and kicking and jumping him to death, but it's not going to change anything.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it made the situation even more dire. Any answers that they hoped to get, they could have potentially got from him, but not at that point. And prior to that, the movie opens up and we see Clint Barton and he's training his daughter on archery. This is something that we saw in the trailer. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, I think a lot of us speculated the reason why he becomes Ronin is because of the disappearance of all of his family after the snap. How did you feel and respond to that scene?
Well, you made a great point. A lot of these scenes in this movie, we'll get into that a little bit. A lot of it is stuff that we saw coming and knew was about to come. But Marvel does such a good job. Like, yeah, this is gonna. His kids were gonna get decimated. He was gonna, become this heartless person because of that. You knew it was gonna happen, especially from the trailers and even reading synopsis. But when you actually see it, it's still sad. It still gets you, and it's coming. It's just like, hey, this paper's coming at your face, and I throw it at your face. I
I'm
still didn't.
shocked.
I'm still,
Yeah.
even though I told you it was gonna happen, and I think
Hmm.
that was the situation with that. Like, we knew it was gonna happen, but when you see it, you're like, oh, that just happened, and I love that about this character development of Clint. We got to know his family in Age of Ultron. We got to know him as a character, and we don't want anything bad to happen to him. We don't want we And as a father, you don't want to see that happen to your children. And I loved how they answered with that because we all wondered what he was doing in Infinity War anyway. So I thought it was a great opening as
So,
well.
shout out to my good friend Mike Del Santo, who is here in the chat. I do want to say happy birthday to you again, my friend. I didn't catch you on that day, but really good to hear from you. And so, it's one of these movies where it's one of these movies where it really shouldn't have worked. But I kind of feel like we've said that about most of the Russo's films up to this point. It's like, how did they pull it off? And time again, the Russo brothers have been able to just like masterfully balance pathos and humor in a way that it's completely seamless. Like you can really have emotional feels and be laughing within the same line delivery sometimes. And I think that's one of the really brilliant things about Marvel. But yeah, after we met Clint's family in Age of Ultron, which you mentioned, this is really the only time we've seen him have that kind of human moment. He was completely gone in Infinity War, and we find out it's because he was on house arrest or whatever. So obviously this event pushes him over the edge and into some of the most dark material that I've seen in an MCU movie. And dude, help me out. If I skip over some important shit, just bring me back around to it afterwards. But that Ronin scene, dude, holy shit.
That was another graphic thing that I never would have thought Disney would have had the balls for. Of course, it wasn't as graphic as like a Deadpool or a Wolverine movie, but it was more than I thought I would see. Like he was kicking a lot of ass.
He straight up stabs some motherfucker through the head, and then the Yakuza boss, he slits his throat and just watches him bleed out while Black Widow's like standing there like, hey, we need to talk.
Yeah.
like this shit's gone crazy.
That was funny. Hey, yeah, hey, when you're done, can we have a conversation?
And so we're going to talk a bit about character arcs and narrative storytelling. In a way, a lot of these things, themes matter a lot. And the way that they set this movie up, it allows for something that happens later to really have a lot more ambiguity. And I'm referring to the scene, of course, between Hawkeye and Black Widow as we get onto this mission. But after we bring the whole team back together, Captain Marvel has rescued Tony. She's brought him back. This is the first time we see Tony and Steve actually have a conversation post-Civil War. And it's like really sweet and heartwarming at first. But then it's like you see so much of Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. You see so much of his like resentment towards the fact that he wasn't able to help things. Did you feel like that moment was earned? Do you feel like that he was right, or do you feel like that was another example of him kind of slipping back into something more selfish?
Well, I want to say two things. I enjoyed. I thought half of the movie would be like Tony in space, coming back, of course. But I do enjoy that it came really close to the movie, and we'll speak more about Captain Marvel. I actually like Captain Marvel more in this movie than her solo movie. I thought she was amazing in this movie. But back to the initial question about them reuniting for the first time. You can see, of course, as soon as he gets off the ship, he's thinking about the stuff that happened over there on Titan. And the first thing he says is, of course, Spider-Man, we've lost him. And he's having a human moment, like, fuck all this beef that we had. Um, we got to get our shit together. I'm sorry. But then it gets back to, he's back on Earth. He's probably having his old memories. He sees Cap, he remembers what happened in Civil War. And he remembers what happened at Age of Ultron. And he remembers what happened after the decimation. And he's having this human moment, like, you know what, dog, we could have had. I saw these memories and visions early on in the past, and you just wanted to be Mister. Oh, we could do it. Fuck it. I told you this was gonna happen. You didn't listen to me. You didn't help me. And he's putting his guilt and shame on Cap because, of course, he's still got a little bit of aggression and anger on him. Of course, he's gonna get everything. And I thought that was very, 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 very well done. And I understood both sides of that. Of course, like Civil War, I understood both sides. I would have probably reacted the same way as Tony Stark in that situation.
Yeah, in hindsight, like I thought Cap had really good points in Civil War, but ultimately he was being fairly selfish because of his connection and his relationship with Bucky that like in a way he made a bad call, which he's not the only one. Tony has repeatedly made bad calls throughout the history. But you just now mentioned that you wanted to talk about Captain Marvel, and I think that that's important because this is kind of right here in that same scene. But first, wait. Before that, though, dude, did Tony, did Robert Downey Jr. lose all that fucking weight, or was that some more movie magic?
I don't know. And we'll talk about this obviously later. There's a lot of stuff in there. I'm like, is that practical or is that movie magic or is this another person? Of course, we're going to talk about later with Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
But I looked at that the second viewing. I was just like, is that natural? Did he actually go full Christian Bale on this? I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it was Christian Bale, I'd have never thought twice about it.
Yeah, it looked pretty natural in my opinion, but I wouldn't be surprised of how good the CGI has been lately. Like, of course, we got Samuel Jackson looking like he did in the '90s back in the Captain Marvel movie. So who knows? We got to get some commentary about that.
And hey, we do have a couple of people in the chat right now. What's up, Gabriel? I do want to let you guys know repeatedly throughout the show that this is a spoiler discussion, so we would love to hear your thoughts. We're going to go and check out questions and things like that kind of as we go through. So if there's anything specific you want to talk about, any sort of insight that you'd like to have, but Ian did say that that was some great acting by Robert Downey Jr. in that point. And yeah, I think we both agree on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, early on, the movie really dedicates its first act to what I've heard people call like the leftovers, which I've never seen the show, but I think basically it is a post like what do they call that shit in the Bible? Like when everybody goes away.
I know you're talking about the
rapture.
Rapture, yeah, rapture.
So we've got this world trying to repopulate itself. And after Thor cuts off Thanos' head, we get a title card that says 5 years later.
Mm.
And our survivors are trying to kind of salvage what's left of the world. But of course, so many of them are overridden by guilt, especially our main heroes, that they're having a really hard time. And that grief meeting scene I thought was a really good way to just kind of show how somebody like Captain America would take such a horrible situation and try to make something positive out of it.
And a small detail in that scene, I just found out that watching some videos, this is the first openly homosexual character was in that scene. It was one of the Russo brothers playing, of course, one of the people in the meeting, and he was talking about a date he went on with another man. And I thought that was very great, progressive, and very sneaky how they did it. I liked it. It was very natural too, like first time I didn't care, it's just like, this is just another person talking about a date. But like when they pointed that out, I was like, wow, that's big for Disney. I appreciate that they did that.
had no idea that that was the first openly portrayed gay character in the MCU. That is cool. Of course, there's a million fucking think pieces about it's awkward because they could have hired a real queer character and blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, that's fair or whatever. But at the same time, like props for them doing it. Props for the director taking it upon himself to include something like that. Was it a political move? I don't really know, but the point is, it's a good thing. I don't think there's anything negative about that, and it doesn't distract. It didn't make it feel like, oh God, here they are pushing their Disney agenda or whatever. I thought it was a really good scene.
Don't you just love those people?
No, they're the fucking worst. They're the fucking worst on all sides. It's just like, dude, just let it be a movie, you know? But yeah, so we've got the fact that Cap isn't able to move on. Black Widow's actually still staying in the Avengers compound, and Cap comes to visit her. She's dedicated all this time to basically trying to figure out a way to resolve this. Have I missed over any big beats so far?
I was about to say the Ant-Man return. Of course, a rat walked over the equipment, which I'm very surprised nobody stole. Like, I would have been quick to steal that. Like, if I was on the rooftop, like, whoa, look at all this. This could be worth a lot of money. I'll find that guy, steal all of it back in the second Ant-Man movie. But no, I was surprised that not only was the van locked up, all the equipment was with it, but like, yeah, it was simple as a rat just walking over the buttons and he was out. 5 years have passed, like you said, and it felt like 5 minutes in the quantum realm. And that's sure, I'll go with it. And it was he went and seen like who all survived. We went to the monumental part. And he realized people thought he died, and he looked to see where his daughter was, and thank God she's alive. But she's older. She's 5 years older. I don't know how old she was in the originals, but like she looks maybe 15 or 16 now, and that's going to raise a lot of questions for Spider-Man Homecoming. You know, just thinking about that, like a lot of these kids that came back are, of course, the age that they were when they were snapped. But there's some of the kids that did move on. They're 5 years later. They should be in college right now. So I'm curious to see where that's going to go with Spider-Man Homecoming.
Is that something that was a plot hole that we're just going to have to move past? Or do you think that like half of the kids got snapped out and it's only the ones we didn't recognize? Because, yeah, that is weird. They should not be in high school 5 years later.
Yeah, it's very weird. But, you know, it's one of those plot holes that I could forgive. I could care less. I just want to see a great Spider-Man movie. But it did bring me questions like, okay, she aged. So a lot of these high school kids aged as well. So if you didn't get snapped, you're moving on, hopefully, to college. What sucks for Peter Parker and some of his friends that did get snapped, they do got to go back to school, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
They have classmates that are younger than them, 5 years younger than them.
So, yeah, you just now mentioned when Scott escapes the quantum realm, he meets Romanoff and Rogers at the compound and explains that living through the duration of 5 hours instead of 5 years, which is what it was outside. So theorizing about the quantum realm can allow for time travel. He proposes it, and it's a really funny scene where they kind of call back. And dude, this makes your idea for a video even more fucking perfect, but they start talking about the paradoxes of time travel and how different well-known movies have used time travel to different levels of success, and the way that they sidestep a lot of the paradoxical nature is by splintering off time in different directions, as in every decision that I make here, like, okay, on Earth 1, I decide to eat a cheeseburger for lunch. What if instead of eating a cheeseburger for lunch, I had a chicken sandwich for lunch? All of a sudden, that splinters off from this reality. So every single decision by every single person has a different outcome in some other timeline, in some other existence. What did you think about that explanation of time travel?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I did like that they made it clear, like, hey, there's different movies with different rules. We're going by this rule, okay? So don't just say, hey, in Back to the Future it worked this way, or hey, in what's it called, the Quantum Leap it worked this way. No, these are the rules, whether they're real or not. But we're in this universe, we're saying this is how it works. Don't forget all this other shit that you've heard. This is how it works. We're going by these. I respected that because time travel is a very complicated concept, and then when you're hearing different things from different people and different movies, it could bring you cross-eyed. I get it. So I did like the explanation, and there was kind of some truth with some theories I'll go into when I make my time travel video about the quantum realm. Surprisingly, there's a lot of truth to Ant-Man, and I did not know that until doing my own personal research.
So my friend Mike Del Santo said, did they hit the $1 billion mark yet? They were projecting that they might. I don't know if it actually has up to this point, but dude, they definitely are gonna. It's insane. There's never been a movie that had this much potential of hitting $1 billion on opening weekend.
Yeah, it's gonna knock off Avatar. I at the end, it might not because Avatar did cheat by bringing it back in theaters, but I think it's gonna come close if it doesn't. And I see Gabby saying something about Cassie, saying satire like comics. She said that she wants to be the sidekick. Yeah, you know, she's of age right now. If they do another Ant-Man movie, I wouldn't be surprised if they gave her a suit. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. So, yeah, for those of you that just now were listening, Ian is actually working on a video that it's going to be a little while before it probably comes out, but it's talking about time travel, and I think that that's just such an interesting topic. And I think what Avengers did, first of all, is they kind of used the theory of time travel where with all of these multiple different timelines, it sidesteps a lot of the conventional paradoxical nature of like, you can't interact with yourself in the past if this is all one timeline. However, because of the fact that there are infinite timelines, things that happen here don't necessarily affect the ones that happen there. Plus, if you really think about it, there's no like foolproof way of doing this. So what a lot of people consider plot holes, that same thing could apply to Terminator, Back to the Future 2, Looper. Any sort of time travel movie is going to have that same kind of like, if you overanalyze the fuck out of it, it's going to make you go crazy, essentially, you know? So, yeah.
And I like Michael's comment. What 1.21 gigawatts? That Back to the Future callback.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
By the theory of if you go back, you're creating different alternate timelines, alternate universes. So there's some movies that say, hey, if you go back and you switch one thing, it's going to affect your future. That's the Back to the Future way. But this one is like, no, it's not going to affect your future. It's going to affect the future that you went back to. So this is kind of like Marvel creating their multiverses. It seemed like, and it seemed like they created two multiverses. And we'll get into that to a little bit. I wanted to also talk about the Avengers in the future. So we talked about Ant-Man coming back, and now we're at the part where we're talking about how they're bringing the team back. So we're gonna, I guess, see the return of Tony Stark, the return of Hulk, Professor Hulk, and the return of Thor. I think Tony Stark came back first is when we see that has a child now. Morgan, I believe her name was.
What? Say that one more time.
So we were talking about, of course, the idea of going back into time with Scott Lang.
Uh-huh.
So the next scenes after that was when, hey, we got this idea of bringing everybody back. Let's bring the team back. So I believe the next scene was they're trying to recruit everybody.
Uh-huh.
The first one was Tony Stark, and then I believe it was Hulk, and then I believe it was Thor.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's right. So the introduction of Tony Stark, obviously, I'm sitting here reading over the Wikipedia page, and it's what you said, that they try to get the three ask Stark if he wants to help them retrieve the stones so that they can revert Thanos, and he's not into it because now 5 years later, what's up with Tony, dude? It's a little different from last time we saw him.
Understandably, he has a daughter, and he doesn't want to risk taking the daughter away, risk losing her, which I can understand. Like, if you get the stones and he gets it first or something like that, she could be gone. Or, of course, if we're doing different rules of time paradoxes, if they go back and fix something, she could be erased from existence. Understandably, why it's like, you know what, I don't even want to mess with it, I get that, but I think he has the conversation with Pepper Potts, like, if you have the ability to do it, let's do it, because your friends and family are gone. I think the main thing that convinced him was when he saw that picture of him and Peter Parker. Like, he probably had flashbacks to the last moment when he saw him. Like, oh man, the kid's gone, and that's 100% my responsibility.
Yeah, and I thought they played that just really, really well. His kind of just the fact that he had a family in the first place, even though Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow look like just really good-looking grandparents. Sure, whatever. They got a 5-year-old, and that's fine. Mike calls it the grandfather paradox, which I'm actually not familiar with, but that's something that we need to look into. Kind of in the same vein, Gabriel, we're going to get to the Hulk thing in just a moment. As we said, we're kind of going and looking at the different Avengers as we're kind of picking them up. And it looks like we go from Stark, and now we go over to
It is Hulk next because they're like, who's the next smartest guy? And it was Hulk. They're like, so because they needed someone genius to talk about this and deal with this scientific revolution of time travel. So it was Hulk next.
and they meet him inside of like a diner, and there's
Like
something a little bit different about Hulk this time around.
So yeah, this is in the comics, of course. Professor Hulk. He's a mix of both. He's got the bust of both worlds. He's got the brute of the Hulk, but the intelligence of Bruce Banner. And I love that. I think it kind of brings somewhat. I don't think Hulk's arc is ended yet, like Tony's and Steve's, but it does bring like some type of finally happiness to the character because his whole after becoming the Hulk was this all stress and worry and he wanted to commit suicide at one point, he said. So I think this is like a good conclusion to his character a little bit, like, okay, he can finally be happy a little bit. But I guess I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
No, please.
My little concern about that was I like that, of course, but I actually wanted to see more Hulk smashing in the ending battle. I don't think we got any of it, but that's just me reaching, of course. It doesn't ruin the movie, but that's my little critique of Hulk. I wanted to see more of like the Battle of New York type stuff when they did the battle with Thanos. There was just so much going on. I don't think they had the funding to do that. But
well, and with so much going on,
yeah.
it's like you've got to understand as a viewer, as somebody who's listening to this review, it's like there are so many elements about it that work that the couple that may not completely sync up might, that's kind of our expectations. And I felt similar about Hulk. I was like, man, is this the Hulk that I want moving forward through the MCU? And then I had to just accept that, like, yo, this is just one movie. They can completely change him around next time through whatever narrative device that they want to make him, the old Hulk that we know. But I did think he was funny. I really enjoyed this kind of mix match of his personalities.
And for the first time, you could kind of see Bruce Banner a little bit happy,
Yeah, that's a good point.
That. And your friend Ed in the comments said taking the stairs. That was a funny ass line though. I like that. That was kind of the whole Hulk that we like. So
yeah, absolutely. That was kind of old school Hulk though too, So yeah, that was something. And I don't want to say it wasn't wrong to me. I enjoyed it. I thought that it worked for the natural progression of the character, especially after what we got the last time. So he decides, after getting a couple selfies with the kids who are not interested in selfies with Ant-Man, which was fucking hilarious. So next on the list, they got to go and talk to Thor. They got to go meet the god of Asgard in this place. It's like a fishing village called New Asgard, and everybody's kind of like, oh yeah, you don't see Thor around very much.
No, and the New Asgard was actually in Norway, which was a callback to where the last place that they saw Odin was when he perished. So that area is where New Asgard is.
I did not realize that it was actually in Norway, but yeah, of course, that makes perfect sense, as Thor is a character from Norse mythology, so that's kind of like being at home away from Asgard. When we do meet Thor this time, he's completely become just like a drunk. He's like a town drunk. He loves to just kick it with Korg and Meek and play video games and just get hammered all the time. He's got this gigantic beer belly. His hair's all grown out. And dude,
funny at first, of course, two of the funniest lines in that movie came from that scene, in my opinion, where Rocket says he looks like a melted ice cream cone. Hilarious. And then, of course, when Korg is playing the game and of course he's getting threatened by kids on the internet, and the way Thor handled that, I thought was funny as well.
So good.
I want to, and here's my second critique of the movie as well. I think I liked what they did with Thor in that movie. Of course, he's always been the sexy guy in these movies, and for once, he's just like the normal dad-looking dad bod guy. So I like that, and I like the stress that he's gone through. It makes sense that he would feel this way and be going through this deep depression. But Here's my little critique though. I think it kind of went a little too like it wasn't funny anymore. I think it was just like when it got to the Guardians of the Galaxy at the end of the movie, I was just like, the joke's not that funny anymore. I wanted to see back to I wanted to see old Thor again, but I guess we're not gonna get that guy because he is broken. I get it, but it wasn't funny anymore.
It's funny that you say that because after Infinity War, and it changes from movie to movie, but after Infinity War and Ragnarok, I was like, Thor is my motherfucker, dude. He's like the baddest Avenger of all of them, dude. He is so good.
He was probably my least favorite in this movie, though. That's weird because he was like my favorite in Infinity War. In this movie, he was probably my least favorite.
Interesting. And I get it. I get it. It was the same kind of thing where it was like, I think it works in the context of this movie. I worry about what it means to him moving forward, and that's something that with the MCU, it's kind of that tough thing of like, should it be in service of the film that we're watching now, or is it specifically to set up the shit that's coming later? And if it is just for this particular movie, I didn't have a problem with it because I did personally think it was really funny throughout. There were maybe one or two too many fat jokes or whatever in it, just played for that. But I don't know. I just thought it was interesting as a character arc for somebody who they not only is he a god, he looks like a god. It is constantly addressed how good looking, how unnaturally good looking he is, even in Infinity War when he kind of ends up on board the ship. So I thought it was funny to kind of, we've taken his eye, we've taken his family, we've taken his fucking hammer, and now we've taken his charm, his good looks and stuff. So I didn't have a problem with it. But yes, the thing with
over, it's not like Steve and Tony's. Theirs is obviously over. I don't think his is over. So he's got a lot they can do with that character, and he's more profitable than ever.
Yeah, most definitely. Those the two things that you said though. Those are two of the critiques, the things that I wasn't the most sure about as I was watching the movie. But at this point, basically, they've got the band all back together. Things seem to be kind of. Let me pull up my Wikipedia page. Things seem to be kind of like going better. And let's see. This is good. Good live conversation. Dead air right here. So
live feed.
Let's see. Banner, Lang, and Stark now travel to... Okay, so they're all together, and Stark realizes that he's able to actually crack this code of time travel. They go and they get... Black Widow goes and she finds Clint, who at this time is now known under the moniker of Ronin. Ronin is just an assassin. He's mad about the fact that his family's gone. So he's going around and killing the Yakuza, which I don't exactly know the cause and effect in that situation. But, man, it gave him a couple moments to be a fucking badass, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know much about those other side characters as well, but I like we were talking about, understandable why he felt that way. But yeah, I love that scene, by the way. It was probably one of the best Hawkeye scenes ever.
So they figured out how to use this quantum time machine. They have a pretty good conversation about it, like you and I had alluded to, by kind of, are the rules like this? Are the rules like this? I guess we'll figure it out. And Ant-Man has 3 test runs where he's able to kind of go and try it out. He comes back first as a teenager,
yeah,
and then a baby, and then like a super old version. And I thought that was really comic gold, but they used Ant-Man really well this time around, right?
Oh, yeah, I think Ant-Man was one of the star players in this movie as well. I liked how he was doing his portrayal. Yeah, it was great. He was very, very well with the team. And of course, he didn't have much of a history like the other ones do, but he is playing his part and he was staying in his lane. I loved it.
Yeah, it's also like he wasn't one of the core Avengers. However, he really does spend the majority of the time with the original Avengers team.
Absolutely, yeah. He could, and I understood his motivations. No matter how out of place he felt, he was determined. I think the next scene that we definitely need to talk about is the next reunite of Cap and Tony when he gives him his shield back.
Oh yeah, that's a great scene. Talk to me about it.
he was hesitant to take it because the last time he saw it, he gave it to Tony because Tony was like, "My dad made that. It's not yours," of course. But Tony became an adult and realized, listen, he made it for you. You deserve it, and this is you. This was made for you, and you need it. We need you to have it because this makes you a better person. And I thought that was a great moment for them. This is the moment I think that they officially squashed it.
Yeah, and it took a while. I mean, I was kind of expecting it to happen during Infinity War, and it's interesting to think that like the last time the relationship was in that kind of good place was prior to the events in that movie. So man, Marvel's just been so good at setting shit up for the long game.
Right, absolutely, and I think it paid off, especially in this movie. Many reasons it paid off. Like they were teasing that fight all the way from the first Avengers. And it played off. It went full circle in that scene, and I appreciate that. It was worth the wait.
So what's wild is that a lot of us were trying to figure out how you go and you undo the snap. And then once we figured out it was a time travel thing, I think a lot of people weren't very surprised by that. I mean, how else would you do it, especially considering they have the time stone? But what we get is so badass because they decide they've got to go and collect all of the Infinity Stones before Thanos is able to get his hands on them. Paradox be damned, but this is the way that they've decided to do it. So they splinter off into different teams and they go to different locations where they know the stones are at. One of these places happens to be New York City in 2012, which is the resolution of the events of the original Avengers. So we get to see the Battle of New York play out from all of these different camera angles and realize that players that we may not have thought were involved in the first place actually had a very pivotal role in it and all of that kind of stuff. What do you think about that trip back to New York?
Oh man, that might have been one of my second favorite parts of the movie was, of course, the New York stuff we're talking about. I love Bruce Banner seeing himself as the Hulk, like, holy shit, is that what I did back? I didn't know I was getting that wild. I love that scene, of course. I loved everything with the old Hulk in those scenes. I like that they brought back, of course, the Ancient One because a lot of people like me had the question, like, okay, we have these sorcerers on Earth and we had an invasion in New York. What the hell were they doing?
Yeah.
And it showed that she was secretly helping. So I like that about that. And I liked, of course, that she brought out his body, the body of him from the Hulk, which shows it might mirror something that in the future, like that might be what happens to him. But I like that he had explained, like, look, your chosen person, Doctor Strange, is the one that put us in this position, so we need this. And I like her coming to the conclusion, like, okay, yes, I do need the help. That was something I loved a lot. This whole scene was great. I loved, of course, the what happened after they caught Loki. Of course, we didn't know like the dialogue and what happened after, but I thought that was amazing. I loved seeing the recaps from, of course, Captain America: Winter Soldier. The elevator scene might have been my favorite because it was a callback to the Hell Hydra shit that's been happening the last couple of years.
Yeah, within that whole scene, we get so much good shit, and that's kind of what Gabriel was talking about in that particular scene. And there's like just really cool things that happened. I think the explanation of the Ancient One being there, guarding the Sanctum Sanctorum was like, it was a cool retcon that actually didn't bother me. It didn't take me out of it. You know, I thought that kind of made sense within the context of the story. And then, yeah, it was like, it was just so fucking dope to see Captain America get back into that elevator. And I knew that he was going to tell him to get off so that he could just wreck all of them like he did in one of my favorite MCU scenes from Winter Soldier. But the way they subverted that was even more clever. Did you get the meta meaning behind the fact that he said Hell Hydra?
Well, yeah, I definitely got it because, of course, the comic books.
Okay.
But I understood that. I like that they took it back to the comic books. I didn't expect it though, and I expected another fight scene in the elevator, which I was like, oh hell yeah, this is about to happen again. But the way he handled that, like with his mind, and said Hell Hydra like he did in the comic books, like I remember that was a huge controversy thing, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I loved how he handled that, and I thought it was amazing. It was comic book accurate. But it was also a callback and gave us great nostalgia to one of the best scenes, like you just said, in the MCU. So I loved it.
We get a couple of other famous characters coming back, like Robert Redford's character from Infinity War. We got Frank Grillo, who ended up becoming Crossbones, and one of the coolest parts, though, obviously, is Cap versus Cap. That shit was wild.
Hilarious. I could do this all day. Yeah, I know. I know. That was so funny, bro. I
Yeah,
love that.
man.
And when he said Bucky is alive, that was kind of like a funny Martha, same Martha moment, but at the same time, it worked better.
And I thought it was just like a meta joke about how in love with fucking Bucky Captain America was during Winter Soldier.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But the next scene I think that definitely need to talk about, and it's a lot of people are talking about this scene, and I'm very confused, but we'll find out in the future, this is where a new timeline was made. As soon as they dropped that Tesseract, Loki looks at it and says, I'm out of here. He took that shit and he's gone. That right there created a new universe. That was a new time paradox, because obviously that didn't happen originally. So that's right there, Marvel creating a new multiverse. I don't know if they're going to do the new streaming service about Loki's new adventures with the Tesseract in this timeline, but he's alive now in this timeline. He's not alive in the real timeline still, but they have a lot of possibilities they could do with that. What do you think about that scene, man? That was just very surprising. It was hilarious, but it left a lot of questions.
It was exactly what you said. It was hilarious, and to tell you the truth, at first I didn't think about it. It wasn't until reflecting afterwards that I was like, damn, where did Loki just now dip off to with that Tesseract, right? And Mike said, that's America's ass. Yeah, that was definitely one of the best lines in there.
Yeah, that is America's ass.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think what you said kind of nails it on the head. I'm assuming that what we're going to get is a spin-off series where it's Loki's adventures through time with the Tesseract. And I think that's great because Loki he's a fan favorite, dude. I've always loved that character. And even after Ragnarok, I'm like, I want to see more of this dude. Holy fuck, they just now killed him in Infinity War. But this is a good way to bring him back into the fray. What's even weirder, and this is a side tangent, but I heard that WandaVision is going to take place in the 1950s.
What? Okay, I didn't know that, but I'm very lost about that. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And more time travel shit. This was definitely the weirdest, wonkiest version of a superhero movie that 10 years ago, nobody would have been on board with this.
Exactly. I wanted to say one more thing about Loki.
Oh, yeah, please.
At that moment when he took the Tesseract, I was like, oh, at the end of the movie, is Loki going to appear to Thor and say, hello, brother? And Thor's going to be like, what the fuck? Are you serious? A third time? I thought that would have been hilarious to me, but, it wouldn't have made sense because obviously that happened in a different time, 2012, and it created a different timeline. So, but for a second, I thought, like, is he going to show up again and just, like, surprise the hell out of Thor? But, no, I think it created a new timeline, and I think that is where they're going to go with that. They're going to show his adventures of dodging everybody and doing his own thing.
So then in the 70s, Cap and Iron Man travel to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters to get the Pym particles from Hank Pym so that they can actually return to the present because they mess up. There's a mistake and they're not able to do it. And this was one of the most poignant scenes in the movie. There's some really good humor stuff, but that conversation between Tony and his father,
that tugged at your heart, bro. Of course, one of the things he says is, I never got to say goodbye to my father. I think he said that in the first Iron Man.
Uh-huh.
He talks about, a lot of the pain that he had to deal with, having a bad relationship with his father. And I think that brought a great conclusion to his character as well. He kind of got the goodbye. He got to give him a hug. He got to know him a little bit better as an adult because he only knew him as a child. So I love that scene. I loved everything about that.
And more thematically, we're setting up this character death. I mean, it just seems like so many of the things that have been boiling up since the very beginning of Avengers made you realize. And similar to that last episode of Game of Thrones, I think that what Endgame does is set it up for the potential that we could lose a lot of these characters, but just from a narrative perspective, they're doing certain things with certain characters that let you know, hey, this is the definitive end of an arc. And I thought Tony being able to get that resolution with his father, which he never had before, and and was even able to tell him like, hey, I'm a father now, I have a daughter, basically you have a granddaughter. And that to me even kind of sealed homeboy's fate. I was even more sure at that point, like, oh, Tony's fucking dead.
Yeah, yeah. I was, yeah, it was kind of like Civil War. I was just like, I agree with Cap. I agree with Tony. In this moment, I was like, is Cap gonna die? Is Tony gonna die? It was one of those situations like it's leaning toward Tony right now. There's foreshadowing a lot about him right now.
Yeah, Gabriel says that Tony or Loki took the Tesseract and is going to Disney Plus for his own show. Absolutely. So, all right, we've got that. We've got that going on, and then from that set piece, we go to another location. Is this where we get to Guardians, or is this where we go to Moramir or whatever it's called for the Soul Stone?
I think we should just go to the Soul Stone because there's a lot to take off with the Guardians one. So
Okay.
We should just go there. So this is where not Cap, but Black Widow and Hawkeye go to where, of course, Nebula died, and not Nebula, but sorry, what is her name? Shit.
Gamora.
Gamora, yeah.
Sorry.
Gamora. What was that planet called too? Shit.
I'm not gonna be able to know. Let me look if I can pull it up real quick. It's like it sounds like something from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Volmir. Volmir.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
So they took it to Volmir, and of course, we know what's gonna happen when we hear that they're going to Volmir. The only way they're gonna get the stone is they gotta sacrifice somebody.
Bro, I didn't even think about that part.
I didn't. Well, as soon as I found out that they were going there, I was just like, well, how else are they gonna get the stones? They can't beat it out of him. He can't give it to him.
Right.
So. And man, of course, everybody in the back of their mind thought that Black Widow and Hawkeye had something for, like in the first Avengers, there was obviously some chemistry there. Like they had some feelings for each other, which is very funny. It feels like Black Widow has gone through chemistry with Hawkeye, Captain America, and Bruce Banner. So
yeah,
she's just, anybody could have pushed her off. That had love her.
Yeah.
But Balmir, thank you, Gabby. But yeah, we knew that part was going to happen, and I want to say this, and Andy Signor could back me up, and my girlfriend. I called it. I knew Black Widow was going to die in this movie. I was the only one that said it because she was the most expendable character, and and I heard that she was getting a prequel movie. So I was just like, okay, everyone's fixated on Cap and Tony dying. I think they're gonna surprise us with somebody like Black Widow. But for a second in this scene, I really thought it might have been Hawkeye. And I have a little bit of complaint. I think this scene took a little bit too long because I wanted to be like cry. I wanted to cry and feel the strings about Black Widow dying. But I think it took a drug a little bit. Like they kind of made it a funny scene. Like I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. No, I'm gonna kill you. And I think I was just like, what? It got to the point where like, okay, somebody just die already. Like, and I shouldn't feel that way. If somebody's gonna die, I want to feel sad about it. What do you think about that, bro?
I see what you mean, and now that you say that, it kind of reminds me of the Gwen Stacy shit from Spider-Man 2, right?
Yes.
Like where she keeps falling, and you're like, oh, she's about to go out. Oh, she's still falling. They saved her. She's about to go out. Oh no! And yeah, like it almost did. I don't want to say it set it up as like a slapsticky comical thing, but I'm on the other side, dude. I thought narratively, because I always think I know better, but I swore that fucking Clint was gonna die because he got to a point where he had passed the point of no return, almost similar to Bucky, in that like he lost too much of his humanity to be able to get it back, and so this would have been a good sacrifice for him.
Yeah, that's where I was like, is it gonna be Hawkeye? Because I was agreeing with what you were saying. Like he done so much, like he's feeling like maybe he should pay for his sins. But, it didn't turn out that way. But there was a part in that scene where I was like, it might be Hawkeye. But before this movie, ask anybody that I was talking theories with. I did say Black Widow was going to die. I'm the only one that thought that.
See, I had no idea. And I didn't know that they announced that the Black Widow movie was going to be a prequel. But that's a little bit of a tell for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. And, there's theories, too, going around that she might still be alive after that snap. Of course, she's in a different timeline. This is 2014. So there's a theory like maybe she's stuck in 2014 in Veermore. That's but I'm not 100% sold on that. So, who knows?
I thought it was well done, man. And I feel like thinking about it, even thematically, it does kind of make sense that it was Black Widow because she never did have that. Like, she was always a killer. She was bred to be a killer, and she always wanted to be. I think she wanted to be noble. She never felt like a hero, but that gave her that moment to actually be one. So it was emotionally resonant. I really liked that part. I wasn't expecting Black Widow to die at all before the movie was going in. I think the big death pool was between, obviously, our two mains, Captain America and Iron Man, and we'll come back around to that here in just a little bit. But before we do, let's move over to Rocket and Thor traveling to Asgard 2013 to everybody's favorite movie, Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, man. It was cool to see Natalie Portman again. I don't know if she actually filmed that or if that was like just extra footage from the Thor: The Dark World, but
True.
that was cool. And I like the fact that Thor's mom got more time to shine because like we really didn't see much of her from the previous movies, and I thought that was a great scene from them. He never got to say goodbye to his mother as well, kind of like the Tony Stark thing. So it kind of made me appreciate that movie a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. It did. It gave. A lot of people did think that Thor was a joke throughout the entire movie, but I also do think it was another part of his arc. Yeah, it's funny, but it was also kind of tragic. They did play it for a fat joke a couple times, but ever since the Infinity War, we've been feeling a lot of the depth of the pain that the character Thor has had to endure over the years, and I kind of thought that, like, as somebody who was royalty, as somebody who was hedonistic prior to this hero moment, he would revert back to his ways. He felt responsible for all of this shit that happened. So that moment that he had with his mom, played by Renee Russo, who's exceptional, I thought that actually did a lot to emotionally invest us in this character's journey even more, and even despite the fact that through so much of it his role was more as somebody to laugh at than it was somebody to sympathize with. But I felt for him. I felt for him through the entire time, so I did think that was a smart way of doing it. And
Yeah.
that was kind of my biggest takeaway from that particular part of it. I don't think that Asgard is anybody's favorite location in the Thor series, but I've just become more and more a fan of Thor, and I think Ragnarok was the movie that really pushed it over the edge for me.
Look, I agree 100%, bro.
And then we show up on Morag, the same year that Nebula and Rhodes steal the Power Stone in 2014 from before Peter Quill can. So this is more just comic gold, dude. We get to see that iconic dance scene from the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy through a perspective where we don't hear the music going on, and it makes Peter look like a fucking Fruit Loop.
Yeah, it's just some guy listening to music like like you would see on the street. So I did think that was very funny, and then you just see War Machine like, what the fuck is going on right now? This guy's dancing around like, come on, we ain't got time for this. He just knocks him over the head. But I love that perspective. Like from that movie, you thought it was a badass scene. Like he's just dancing to some classical music, the stone. But yeah, from the other point of view, if you don't have headphones in your ear, you just it's just some weirdo.
Some fucking dude singing into rats and kicking them around and shit. Yeah, man, that was funny to me.
That was hilarious.
I'm not trying to body shame. I mean, fuck, look at me. But dude, does Chris Pratt don't look like Guardians 1 Star-Lord anymore, does he?
No, he doesn't. I'd say more in the face though. But I agree with what you're saying. But he's a different guy.
He's good though. I really like that character, and I think they did just enough to like kind of. People were so pissed at Star-Lord after Infinity War, and then other people were like, dude, Thor was kind of the one that really fucked up, but I thought they did a good job of like taking the hate and the heat away from Peter in just a little bit of time that he actually has in this movie.
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, like you said, that was a very funny scene right there. Might have been one of my favorite parts. It gave War Machine something to do as well. But the next thing I think obviously we're going to talk about is how they brought Thanos back, which is the Nebula thing. They were talking about how I think the Wi-Fi connection was just like getting weird because it's the same stuff going, it's the same person and they have the same parts. So of course the computers are like connecting this. So they're seeing stuff from her in the future and they're seeing stuff from her in the past. the future Nebula seeing everything, and then the old Nebula seeing things, and of course Thanos controls all that, and he's witnessing everything, and he's seeing everything that the yeah, I'm getting confused saying it out loud. But he's seeing all the stuff from the new Nebula, and he's like, "Holy shit! My fate is going to. I get all the stones, and then I get my head chopped off. Let's just let them get all the stones. Let's just grab it when they do that. Let's switch these nebulas. I thought it was kind of brilliant how they did that, how they brought Thanos back like that way. That was actually I would never have thought to do that. I thought that was actually really cool how they did that.
Yeah, it was clever, and it added like you don't know who the villain in the movie's even going to end up being after they fucking murk him within the first 5 minutes of it, and then the way that you're like, oh, this is Guardians of the Galaxy Thanos coming back, and obviously, you know. This is he didn't have that divine purpose at that point. He didn't even know that he was trying to do all of that yet, or what the purpose was. So it was really interesting to see him kind of discover his fate and his destiny through the events that are happening in the future. Again, the time travel paradoxical shit it is a little bit hard to explain, but needless to say, Thanos realizes that the Avengers are out to try to gather the stones to prevent him from being able to get the stones, so he decides that he's going to come and take it from him after they've already done the legwork for him.
Yeah, this is another scene that starts a new time paradox. This is another scene that starts a parallel universe, of course, because this didn't happen in the original timeline. I thought this was another brilliant way to bring back Gamora. Like, of course, I'm not a big fan of bringing dead people back, but like this is not the same Gamora, and I think this is gonna bring a good story to the new Guardians of the Galaxy. But we can talk about that later on. But like, yeah, this was great. The plan was amazing. How they switched out the nebulas, and I thought this evil Nebula was gonna grab the Infinity Gauntlet because that's kind of what happens in the comics.
I heard that.
Yeah, but of course it didn't go out that way. But I thought that's what they were going for. I was like, oh, that's interesting how they do that. But yeah, the plan was like we're gonna switch nebulas and we're gonna go into the future and fuck shit up.
I never had been a big Nebula fan. I thought she was a little overcooked as a character, as a villain in the first couple of movies, and I think this one again did a lot of service to make her a more likable character.
I said that in my review. I was like, dude, I've never really been a Nebula fan, but this movie right here, her stock went up.
Yeah,
she did it.
Yeah.
Karen was great, and I love her as a character. I can't wait to see how the future holds with her. I loved her in this movie.
So now that the stones have been collected in the present, Banner uses them to restore those whom Thanos disintegrated. 2014 uses the time machine to transport Thanos and his ship to present day, and he attacks the Avengers compound. So yeah, this whole fucking scene is wild, dude. When Thanos ends up showing up and just carpet bombing the entire facility, I'm like, oh my god, they're all fucking dead. Where do we go from here?
Honestly, I thought they were dead as soon as that because he was so close to the window. Like when the first bombs came out, I was like, "Oh, Ant-Man's gone." But of course, movie magic. Nobody even gets a scratch. They all look perfect.
Every one of them's fine.
Every one of them was fine. There was some death scares, of course, with the drowning, but we'll get that in a little bit. I wanted to bring back a little bit to whenever they did the snap. This was another great moment for the Hulk. Of course, they mentioned in the first Avengers that a lot of the Tesseract was gamma radiation. And he makes the point like, hey, I think I was made to be the Hulk for this situation. I'm the only one that can take this snap and survive. Of course, the Hulk is very good with regeneration, kind of like Spider-Man and Wolverine. So I thought it was a smart thing for him to do the snap. And the second he redoes it, Clint gets a call and we get confirmation that it worked. But we can't even celebrate because, like you just said, Thanos does his shooting and the invasion starts.
Damn, that scene, it was so good where Hulk is able to put on the gauntlet and snap, and it just fries him, dude. Like, his whole arm just gets all fucking burnt up, similar to the way that we saw what it did to Thanos earlier on in the movie. But yeah, like you said, not only do we not have time to celebrate, there's this whole new ominous element that totally distracts from any of the progress that they just had, because now you're like, oh shit, now all the Avengers are fucked.
Yeah.
Thanos launches this attack, and all of a sudden ships start showing up everywhere. A bunch of those Outriders are dropping out. We do realize that the Avengers are just kind of underneath the compound. They're okay. They're trying to regroup and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, just assault from everywhere. And Thanos is right up in the mix, and Captain America's right there fighting him. And it was just, this third act is the...
Hey, let's slow it down just a little bit.
Please,
Okay?
please, bring me back.
I know you get excited, but there's so much stuff like that in between that. So obviously that are stuck under the compound. Nebula is looking for the Infinity Gauntlet, and so is Hawkeye. That's his little mission. He sees Nebula, of course, and just like, oh, that's somebody I know, and there's some confusion there. I'm gonna get back to that part in a second, but I love this part though. When you see everybody else is either struggling or Hawkeye's doing his mission, we get the original three. We got Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man. And they look at him and like, what is he doing? And he's like, he's just sitting there. And Thor's like, you know it's a trap, right? And Iron Man's like, obviously, but I don't give a shit. And Thor's like, now that we're in agreement, he's got, and we didn't even talk about this, he grabs Mjolnir from Thor the Dark World.
Oh, yeah.
Totally forgot about that.
Important part.
Yeah. So he gets his axe and Mjolnir, and he charges up, and he gets that cool looking beard. Looks like comic book accurate, and they're ready to go at Thanos. And of course, Thanos is holding his own because he's a very powerful character. But I'll let you go back to where that's where I wanted to bring it to where you were just at.
No, you're 100% right, because the rest, it wouldn't make context without that one little bit of key information. And when Thor does get that back and his beard like braids up, he's still fat, but he looks like a fucking tank at this point.
A little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And so set up, how do Cap and Thanos confront each other when this whole thing goes off? Isn't it the two of them that go and square up before the whole battle starts?
It was either Cap or Iron Man. I know they were doing most of the talking. Thor just wanted to fight, but he was pretty much like, Thanos pretty much was like, hey, I know what's gonna happen to me, and now that I know that if I let people survive, they're gonna always come back and get revenge. So you know what? Whenever I get this gauntlet, I'm just gonna wipe out everything, and we're just gonna start over.
Yeah. And they're like, do you think that people are going to be happy to be ruled by a tyrant? And he's like, no, I'm starting back from scratch. They won't even have known. They'll have no memory of this, which is interesting because of the whole idea about, I hope they remember you, is what he said to Tony in the end of Infinity War. Well, so this battle kicks off, and it is epic. I mean, there are just so many of those Chitauri soldiers, Outriders, those big worm things come flying through. Cap is... Go ahead.
Sorry. I think the battle was just with these three and Thanos at first. I don't think any of these other people came out at first. And this is the part where Thanos is beating the hell out of Cap with his thing. And we see the shield that's supposed to be unbreakable break. And then we see, of course, Thor's getting his ass beaten. And I think that's when the moment when he gets Mjolnir, which was teased in Age of Ultron. This is when Cap gets Mjolnir. He holds it. He's worthy, and I think all this happens before the rest of the army comes. I think it's just him and Thanos.
God, dude, what a fucking moment! Thor's laid out on the ground, and he reaches out his arm, and dude, all of a sudden, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said the theater went crazy. I stood up in the theater. That's all I was saying.
Bro, yes. Like, you see them fighting, and Thor goes to reach out his hand, and you hear it. Mjolnir's coming, and then all of a sudden it shoots right past him. Bam! Captain America is wielding fucking Thor's hammer. And the whole theater just exploded, bro.
Yeah, he charged up. He was beating the crap out of him like he knew what he was doing. It was the first time he's ever done it, too. But he went in, man. That was a great moment. And we knew he was.
Shield in one hand, hammer in the other, just fucking working, dudes. It was so cool. Were you cool with Captain America having the hammer?
Oh yeah, I think of any other Avenger, I think he was the one that would obviously be the one that was working.
I had a moment where I was like, man, Cap's already got the shield. He's good. Like he is this virtuous, pure of heart person, but he would not have been able to stand up to the rest of those guys without the hammer. So it took me a second to get on board with it, but then I was like, yeah, this is fucking awesome. And they teased it a little bit in Age of Ultron that he actually was like Thor was worried that Cap was going to be able to lift that hammer. And once he finally does in this movie, Thor is just like, I always knew that he would be the one, you know? And it makes the most perfect sense because he's by far the most altruistic, virtuous person out of all of them. More so than Hulk, or more so than Thor, I always thought. But
whoop America's ass, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so, it's still looking dire, though, even in this situation. Cap's about to go down, right? And then all of a sudden...
I think Tony's knocked out over there. Thor's knocked out over there. Cap is barely struggling, and this is where you were getting at, where he calls in the rest of the army. And this was one of my favorite scenes. I want this poster. The whole army, and Cap is with a fucked up shield and stands up against literally a whole army of aliens.
Yes, and you hear the radio comm come through. And you hear Sam's voice say, Cap, on your left. And then these portals, man. Yeah, dude, chills. And all these portals start opening up around him. And fucking everybody shows up. You got the Guardians coming through one. You've got Valkyrie and the people from Thor coming through another. Everybody from fucking Wakanda comes busting through. You know, it is just so awesome and just the best moment.
You know, you mentioned all of them. Of course, the students from the Doctor Strange show and the Guardians. Then randomly you see what's her name from the Ant-Man movies.
The Wasp, Evangeline Lilly.
Yeah, she comes out and everybody. It's like, oh my god, this is perfect right now. Like now we're even. The teams are even. And it's just like everybody's got revenge. Everyone's like, I'm going to fuck you up. You decimated me.
Yeah, and at that moment, you know Thanos knows he's in trouble.
But then one of the best moments of the movie, after that moment when everybody lines up, what does Cap say?
Oh, man. Yeah. Avengers assemble.
The first time ever. And you just see everybody. You even see M'Baku come. You see, Ant-Man's huge and you see Hulk running, you see, everybody's charging. Everybody from all these movies that we've seen previously, the payoff. Gabriel, so even Howard the Duck was there. I gotta watch that again and see if that's true.
I didn't see that.
That would have been funny if that was true, though. But everybody just goes full in. I just oh my goodness, I cried. That was a moment where I teared up.
I was going to say, I'm trying to avoid the word culmination in this review. And the other thing is people love to talk about how they cry in movies. And I was thinking about the fact that, it just is a way to show that, hey, I have a personal connection to this thing and I want you to know about it. I'm so invested that it moved me to tears. And, dude, just the sheer amount of history that I had with these characters and this really powerful moment. This shit had me just I tears running down my face, and it was so powerful. And then the whole gauntlet battle, Thanos is about to pull that snap again, and they're all fighting and trying to get it away from him. And
Marvel coming out of nowhere, we forgot about that.
Oh
too.
Yeah,
he's getting his ass beat by I think Scarlet Witch, and he's like, "Yo, just shoot everybody." Now, whoa, we're gonna shoot your own people. Like, no, fuck it, shoot everybody. We're getting killed over here.
Yeah.
And they're shooting at everybody, and all of a sudden you see from the sky Captain Marvel, which I didn't even think would come back in the movie, just came and just started wrecking shit,
destroying the whole ships and everything.
Like I said, I enjoyed Captain Marvel in this movie more than I enjoyed her in her own movie. I thought that was a great moment, and I think we forgot too another moment. There's just so much going on.
Oh man.
With the reuniting of Spider-Man and Tony Stark was a great moment too.
So good. And then when Spider-Man puts his suit into kill mode and that thing's just fucking stabbing everybody with its legs and shit, that was so good. So good.
But I love that.
it does. It gets down to like where a movie this big and was such an epic set piece at the end that you'd think it would be easy to overlook the personal moments, yet they're able to find a minute for everybody to shine. Like there's one little thing for each character to do. That scene that you said about Scarlet Witch, man, is so powerful. She comes down and she says, do you remember me? And he says, no, I don't, or something like that. And she says, you will.
It was, you took everything from me, and his response was, I don't even know who you are. That was pretty funny.
And she says, you will, and then just fucking boom, dude, starts wrecking him. And he headbutts Captain Marvel, and it just goes ping. Like, dude.
Oh, another thing we forgot, the moment when all the women came together. I thought that was pretty dope, too.
You like that?
I like that. You know, realistically, though, like, what were the odds they were all in the same section? I was just like, that was kind of...
It's fine. I don't want to come off like a hater. I was just like, all right.
Realistically, it doesn't make any sense, but it did give you a moment where, like, you know, I love all these women characters.
Yes.
And I thought it was great that they came together. Maybe teasing a all-woman Avengers movie. I don't know, but it was a badass moment, in my opinion. Accurate, and doesn't make any damn sense, but it was cool just to see.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it kind of reminds me and called back to the episode or the scene in Infinity War, just on a much smaller scale. So man, and dude, Valkyrie flying around on that Pegasus, it was fucking crazy. It was just everything you could think of from a splash page. Like, you know, you open up those double pages inside event comic books, and it was like everything was there. It was all going on seamlessly, and I loved it so much. And then we get to a scene where, you know, Iron Man asks, you know, Doctor Strange, is this what's supposed to be happening? Please tell me. And Doctor Strange says, if I tell you, it won't happen. And that was just such a showing moment of where things are headed. Before we get to that, is there anything else we need to touch on from the final battle? And then we'll kind of wrap it up with our final thoughts.
Dude, I was just thinking, like, we could just do a whole video on the battle. It's just because of so much going on.
No shit. I
also like to mention the reuniting of Star-Lord and Gamora. That was a great moment where he sees her again. He's just getting all his emotions, but she obviously has no idea who he is because it's a different Gamora. I thought that was a great scene.
It really was. And then the way that Gamora or Nebula has to kill her past in order to become the person that she is now physically, like literally kill her past. And I think that like really threw Nebula for a loop, because when she's out, she doesn't know where she stands. She doesn't know any of the things that have gone on over the past years. So I thought that was a clever way to leave that character. But yeah, we get to the moment of self-sacrifice. It is like it was inevitable, and it was something that I'd been predicting for quite a while now. A lot of people said I was crazy. I want to say I told you so to all of you guys that thought that it was going to be Steve.
I ain't gonna lie. I told you I predicted that Black Widow was going to be the one to die, but I was one of those people that said there's no way Tony's gonna die. Like, he got stabbed in the last movie. They're gonna keep him alive just to kill him. It makes no sense. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
You were right.
And a lot of people, thank you for acknowledging it. I want the rest of the comments in this comment section to be like, Jeremy, you were right. And then I'll feel like my job is done.
You were right. I would have probably went with Cap over Iron Man in this, but you were right. You were 100% right. But the way it went out, man. I wanted to ask you, which one do you think had a more epic death, Wolverine or Captain America?
It had to be Captain America. I mean, it had to be an Iron Man. It had to have been Iron Man.
Iron Man as well.
You know, it's different. It's different. Captain America or Wolverine, he was always this rogue. He was always a loner. He always kind of wanted to die. It was almost like part of his arc that, like, he just wanted to end this lifetime of being a killer. And of course, he had that human moment with Daphne Keene as X-23 at the end of X-Men. But I feel like we have invested so much into the arc of Tony Stark. And he was this selfish billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, all these things that he was in the first movie. And he realized the error of his ways early on. He was an arms dealer. And this whole thing, everything that happened past that was almost a result of him coming out as Iron Man. So, like, he owed it to he owed it to the world basically to be the one to end that conflict. And what happens, and I don't know how he was able to yield the gauntlets in his Iron Man glove, but he ends up getting all the gauntlets in his glove.
Yeah.
And
So anything could have happened. So I can, I don't have a problem with that.
no, I didn't either. It didn't bother me. But it seemed like they maybe could have found a better way to justify how that happened.
Yeah.
But he ends up putting on the gloves. He ends up snapping, and it changes everything back to the way that it was.
You're forgetting another line. Best callback line probably of all time.
What is it?
The first Iron Man, he's he's in this conference. We're used to superhero movies where they want to hide their identity. First Iron Man movie, he just says, "I am Iron Man." That was one of the best lines I think in the MCU. They brought it back. The callback of that shit right there, that touched me.
Yeah,
And the way
dude.
like he did in the conference, he's like, "I am Iron Man."
Yeah,
that was amazing. That was probably my favorite scene of the movie. That call was amazing.
And it was his last words, because he did not say anything after that. A lot of times in death sequences, the guy will have a chance to be like, "All right, kid," talking to Spider-Man, "now it's your turn to step up and be the hero," or whatever, blah, blah, blah. They didn't go that route in this, and I really like that, because it was about the way that his death affected everybody else. I mean, including mine, and that it was the moment. And, dude, speaking of which, before I get there, dude, Gwyneth Paltrow, never really been a fan. I didn't like the idea of her becoming Rescue, but I thought they did a fucking great job with her in this.
Oh, yeah, I agree. But she came through randomly because my theory was she was going to be the one that rescued him when he was in space. But I didn't think it would be like her showing up to go to battle. But they kind of teased it in Iron Man 3 anyway. Like you're holding. She knew how to work these suits anyway. So it wasn't that bad of an idea to throw her out there. She knows how to wield these suits. So I thought it was dope. She had her man's back, and I loved it. And I love she was there for that moment, because it would have kind of been weird that she didn't get to be there. This is the love of his life. He wanted to see her, be at that moment.
Yeah, for sure. And it was as he was laying there dying, and Peter's with him and stuff, and she comes up and he doesn't say a word, and she's just like, "Hey, Tony, it's okay. We're going to be okay. You're good." And that's when I just started crying. Like, waterworks, dude. Because like death is so final, and to think about this mother that's going to be raising this kid by herself, but the best father you could possibly ever have. He saved the fucking universe. And it was just like such a great moment, such a human moment, and it doesn't like show him walking away from the destruction at the end, like, "Let's go get shawarma." No. It cuts to the funeral, and we see how much of an effect that he had on everybody's lives. We see characters from all of these movies that have come together, and Tony was the core of it. I mean, Nick Fury was also, but as far as taking us through this journey, it had always kind of been Iron Man's journey, and that's why I felt he was the one who he owed it to the audience to die in that heroic way. And I felt like it was the perfect resolution to his arc, because he wanted to protect everybody, and eventually he was able to get to do that. And man, it was so good.
I agree. That was the best way to go out. And I'm tearing up just thinking about it.
Right? Yeah, the lights came on too fast, because they're like right after the movie came up, the lights came on, and like I'm taking my sleeve and like wiping down my fucking face real quick, like, "Oh, I'm good. Looking around, everybody was fucking crying. It was just powerful. I think it was everything that I wanted the movie to be. Is it a perfect movie? That's debatable. Was it the perfect end to the Avengers? I really don't think you could have done it any better.
I think absolutely. There's one last thing we have to talk about though. Like after that funeral, which I thought that was a great funeral. I liked the callback from the boy in Iron Man 3. But yeah, I loved all of it. The callback of, "Hey, what do you want to eat? Cheeseburgers." It was from Iron Man 1. Of course, the Iron Man has a heart thing. That was great. But the next thing we got to talk about, obviously, is something I also called, is Captain America's ending.
Oh yeah.
I actually called this in Infinity War. I thought this was gonna happen, where of course the idea of time travel is like, why kill Captain America? Why not just let him live his life, go back to give Peggy this dance? and obviously this is what happens. And I thought it was great. What did you think about this last scene?
I thought it was perfect. I thought it was absolutely perfect. Once we start to get into the time travel, blah, 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 he went back in time with the hammer. So I don't know where the hammer went.
The hammer, I thought about that too. It confused me, but it makes sense. Like, and this is kind of what brings problems with the Infinity Stones, though. But he had to bring the Infinity Stones back to where they were. So obviously, he had to bring the hammer back to where it was as well. So I think that's why he brought the hammer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that actually does make
I had to think
sense.
about that too. I was confused. Like, is he bringing it back to 1940? Why? But no, that makes sense. He's got to put everything back exactly where it was.
I
But it,
see.
but that also brings questions to me with like the one at Vormir. Is he going to bring the stone back and see his old arch nemesis, the Red Skull? Or are they gonna have a fight? Or how do you bring the stone back? Do you get somebody back when you return the stone? I don't know the rules of that. That's another thing I'm confused about.
Kind of a
Um,
whole different conversation, though. In a movie where we're talking about fucking super powered people that can travel through space and stuff, at some point it's just like you just kind of got to be along for the ride. But yeah,
yeah,
dude, I
he
think
did his job.
I feel like Captain America in that particular timeline, I feel like he did something that he earned. Like he did never have that chance to just like experience love and life and just the regular mundane stuff that so many people do. So like I felt like that was an earned moment. I thought it was a great way to see the character off without having to kill Tony and Cap, because I feel like it would have robbed one of them or the other of their emotional core, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody doesn't have to die for any, because obviously both of their contracts are over with. But like, you don't have to kill somebody to end end their story arc. You can give them a happy ending, and I thought that was a perfect happy ending for him. He got to have that love because, like you just said, he obviously he was in World War II, went to sleep he froze and went to sleep and woke up. He's doing other stuff. He doesn't have time to do anything. No, now he can retire and live a full life. And it's funny if you think about how old he is now, because like he was over 100 when he woke up in 2012, I think. And he's living this other life. Then he goes back to the 40s and he's kind of living another 100 years. It's
So he's old as fuck, basically.
old shit in that scene. But I love
Interesting.
the handing down of the new shield to Falcon. I think was great. It's comic book accurate too, but you know a lot of people thought it was going to be Bucky.
It
But
had to be
I'm not.
Falcon. It had to be Falcon. I think even from Bucky's perspective, he's like, I'm not worthy of wielding this shield. Like, he had done so many horrible things, regardless of the fact that he was under mind control and all that kind of stuff. I feel like Sam was the right person to inherit the shield. Even if the comic book shit didn't exist, I felt like Sam was the actual person who should be the next Captain America. So that worked really well for me. We know there's a Sam and Bucky series that's going to be coming out that's kind of explore both of them, and so it looks like Anthony Mackie's going to have the shield and be Captain America in it, which it's just so awesome. I mean, there's a whole other video that we're going to have talking about the future of the MCU, but yeah, just as far as a conclusion to this chapter, to this phase of the MCU, I felt like they knocked it out of the park. I think it's kind of trivial at this point, but what was your score for it?
Oh man, this after the second, like, of course, I told you my issues, but I feel like even me saying my issues, I feel like were reaches because a lot of people might like what I didn't like. But everything I didn't like didn't take away from the movie. It was just me like wanting to do something different or me nitpicking. As a movie goes, dude, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5. I honestly am. Like, I don't think my nitpicks were enough to be a real critique of of a movie. I think it was great. What about you?
Yeah, it's a classic. It's an instant classic in a way that most other movies will never be able to be. I mean, just built in with so much love and adoration from millions and millions of people. It was a cultural phenomenon that we may never see the likes of in our lifetime again. And nitpicks aside, like you said, I think I started to kind of lean towards a 4.5 because of whatever issues that I did have with it, but surely on entertainment and spectacle and just enjoyment, I haven't seen a movie I enjoyed in the theaters this much, maybe ever. Like it's debatable whether I've ever seen a movie that I love this much in the theater. So yeah,
tears, laughter, happiness because of the action. It had everything. It was
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. I've never seen a movie that done that to me as much. I can't remember. I could probably think about it, but at this moment, oh my goodness, it took me everywhere. And I think the most important thing with this movie, as concluding 22 other movies, it had to have a great ending. No matter if the movie wasn't good at the beginning, it had to have a perfect ending. You got to wrap up this series perfectly, and they did it perfectly. And I can't say nothing but great stuff about the movie
That's
because of that.
badass, man. No doubt. What a cool conversation to be able to have. Like this is something we've been looking forward to for years. Before we wrap this up, I did want to try to answer maybe a couple of questions. Ed Kretz wants to know why can mortals wield infinity stones in this movie?
Yeah, that was kind of a weird thing because I remember well, the situation where in Guardians of the Galaxy where the chick grabs it and then she immediately blows up or something like that. But then you see Hawkeye holding the Soul Stone like it's nothing. He just goes back to the past. That's a good question. I have an answer for that. Maybe different stones because that's the Power Stone that exploded. So maybe different stones have different
Mm.
levels of power. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a reasonable answer. He also says Ronin and War Machine too. So yeah, Ed, I don't know that there is a definitive answer within the canon of it. I think again, it just kind of goes back to that same idea of like suspension of disbelief in order to acknowledge that it was a real technical feat and an achievement to even be able to bring this many stories and characters together in a way that was fulfilling. It's just like you got to give him a pass because if you would have given me the pen and the paper to write that screenplay, I can guarantee you it wasn't gonna be a good movie.
There's like the nitpicking I was telling you about, man. There was some stuff I wanted to add or take away, but like you know what, some of it might not have made sense. Like there was a scene where I would have definitely put Nick Fury in that fight, just because I just wanted to see him around the Avengers. I would have been like, I would have had him with his pager, paging Captain Marvel, and that's why she came, and then have him with the rest of Shield in the battle. I thought that would have been great, but at the same time they would have got killed, slaughtered. So that might not have been a great idea on
Yeah,
my part.
yeah, dude.
And I,
So one more thing, he says, I wonder if they intentionally made Hulk suck to get the rights from Universal. First, you'd have to agree that Hulk sucked in the movie, which I do not agree with. But do you think that they did anything with it for in hopes of getting him back from Universal?
man, I think at this moment, Universal would be foolish not to go the Spider-Man route where they make a deal like Sony and Spider-Man did. So if they want to be prideful and not do it, that's on them. But I think it's a lot of money to be made if they go forward with it. I think there's a lot of like Thor and Hulk still look like they have potential to do more with their franchise. So I think it'd be a great idea. And one of my nitpicks as well is I would have loved to see like a huge Hulk smash moment in the battle, but we never really got that. But at the same time, like I do think there's a lot of potential for that character in the future. But Universal, do the right thing, man. Be smart.
Man, I cannot agree more. This has been fun. This has been a good conversation. I'm glad we were kind of able to dig into it, but we're not done. You and I, we're going to carry this fucking conversation all the way over to the controversy. So, you guys that are checking this out, first of all, thank you so much, you rock. We really do appreciate you stopping by to have the conversation with us. The comments mean everything. If you want to help us get the word out, then all you got to do is click that share button so that we can share our love of movies with everybody. And if you are not subscribed over to the controversy, please make sure to do that. Ian is always putting out really exceptional content. If you don't know what Popcorn Planet is, head over there and subscribe for a series called Nerd Wars. It's sort of like movie fights, a little bit different. They're able to talk a little more candidly about all of the stuff, and they've got some great debaters over there. So head over, subscribe to Popcorn Planet, and stay tuned. I will be posting a link to the conversation that I have with Ian here shortly. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but be sure once it gets out there, I will be letting you know. If there are no more questions or comments down in the comments section, let's see. Looks like we're good to go. All right, guys, thank you so much. And until next time, be terrible.
Be terrible. Great shit, bro.